All right. Hey, and now we'll start up with the second primer for today, and that's going to be just using inline functions. Now, inline functions are small snippets of code, and we've got to kind of emphasize that these are really small snippets of code. I'm going to go to the iPad real quick. Now, we've seen in some of our implementations so far that some of our methods are just one line. It might be returning a value, or it might be returning a calculated value, or it might simply be setting a single member variable to an argument that was provided for it. You know, these sort of simple one statement functions give us the license or the opportunity to use inline functions. And all these are very short and sweet function definitions. And the beauty is that if your class implementation, so here I'm talking about the class.cpp file, if all of your method definitions and the whole file is nothing more than one line instructions per statement, well, you can easily just get rid of your class.cpp file and include all of the executable code necessary just up in your main function or in your class definition. So what I'm talking about here is like if we had an accessor function called getName, and of course here I'll do string class and then the operator getName. And if all this does here is if we're returning name like that, well, we can just take that return name statement and actually inject it right into our class definition. So let me show you how we might go about doing that. I'm going to go back to good old Xcode here, and we'll keep kind of hacking away at our code here. But here, my goal is to kind of get rid of this movie.cpp file because we see that every single one of these functions has just one instruction in it. So if we went back and instead put all of those instructions inside braces right next to the method prototype, we can do that, and that's going to then just save us a little bit of file space. It's going to save us a little bit of compile time, and it's going to save us just a lot of characters in our code. So the way we would do that here, if we remember get screenwriter, we're just simply going to return screenwriter for that method. Let me spell it right. Return screenwriter just like that. Now, what's interesting about the syntax is that we have these three characters together, semicolon, brace, semicolon, and that sort of, it hopefully will set our eyes off going, okay, that's unusual, is that correct? And in this case, yes, it is correct. And that's because this C++ instruction here that we include between the braces, that has got to be a complete C++ statement. And of course, in C++, all of our statements are terminated by the semicolon. So here I'll do year released. So return year released. I'll also then do a return title. There we go. And let's say somebody is not muted. There we go. All right, and then what we can talk about next is in these mutator functions, the methods that are setting a value, we can do the same thing. Here, we had defined previously this temporary variable a and plus y and t behind it. And if you're doing a regular 3-file implementation where we have a separate implementation file for this class, in these prototypes here that we list up in the public section, it's optional to put that variable. But it's mandatory if you're going to use inline functions because we've got to have something to work with. So what that instruction here is we're just simply going to set screenwriter to, let me make it an S. So it goes with screenwriter. Here we're going to just assign screenwriter to S. And then don't forget that closing semicolon. Same thing here, year released is going to equal Y. And then same here, title equals our T. And those are our inline functions. Now, a couple of other notes on this. It's common global programming practice to just use inline functions if and only if you've just got one statement. If you've got two or more statements, for example, you've got some extra code that's going to have input validation and throw an error if there is an input issue. Anything more complex than just one statement like this, you'll want to then just go ahead and include that in your movie.cpp file. But for demonstration purposes, at least now, this is going to work for just these one. Okay. Now, since I've got the definitions here in my movie.h file, that's telling me then that I don't need to have this movie.cpp file. So I'm just going to delete it. And now we're working with two files, just simply movie.h and our main.cpp. So I'll run this now. And there's our output showing the 4-element array populated with our objects. And sure enough, all we do have is one extra header file that's got the combined class definition with our class or with our implementation methods. So that is how a quick and dirty primer, how we would do inline functions with our C++. So I will stop this recording here.